All right, welcome everybody to the 2603 Aspen Inside Scoop. As always, lots and lots of fun developments. I was preparing the demo. I was like, oh, we don't have as much this time, and yeah, it's going to be a little while. So we've got a lot to show this time again. So as always, we're doing really cool stuff. Just wanted to thank everybody that has contributed to this release, all the developers, everybody doing QA and documentation, and all the people that will do QA and documentation for 2603. And just a reminder, because we all have some amazing testers in this group, if you are doing testing or documentation, please put your name in Jira. Just so that we can credit you in the release notes. We've got a section down here at the bottom. It is currently blank for the testing and documentation, not because people haven't done testing and documentation yet, but because I didn't fill it out yet. If you do want to do those, we'll just do a little quick. In Jira, I just have a Jira up at random. I don't even remember what this one is. If you are doing QA and documentation, so this is authenticating web resources from Explore More. We'll talk about that, I think, last. If you go to QA and documentation, there is who is doing QA. I've already done some QA on this as it came in, but other people will do this. So Miranda will add this. I imagine Tara will add her name here as well. And then if you're doing documentation, add documentation. We're trying to tag which ones need documentation. Miranda will be doing documentation for the things that we have done development for. But if you're going through and tweaking documentation or anything, please add your name. So that's my soft hard pitch for making sure we get you all credit. All right, let's go into the actual developments. I'm going to go back to release notes here for a second. So for LiDA, I'm not going to do a demo this time. The changes were mostly subtle. A lot of like just little bug fixes kind of things. I did want to call out DIS 2061 that SWAN sponsored, and that was fixing some of the button colors for improving color contrast within LiDA to improve accessibility. So as people are going through and using and testing LiDA this time, take a look, make sure your colors and buttons look good. Obviously, nationwide, we've got accessibility stuff that we're working on before new requirements go into place. And with that, jumping into some more accessibility updates. So screen readers have previously been reading the book covers. If we look at a search result, so this is just a sample search result that I have, the book cover is not very interesting. All it tends to say is the title, or it would just say book cover. We updated, and we can see this by kind of tabbing through. So it just skips the book cover now. And that's good for screen readers because we don't need it to read dinosaur. Clicking on the links goes the same place. So we've just kind of told it, this is a presentation element. It's not really important if you're using a screen reader or tabbing through things. Again, if you see other places, we caught all the places we could find. If you see other places, please let us know. And that's DIS 1941. And that was not sponsored by a particular library. That's something we just did. DIS 1981 now is running a full cloudLibrary index. I just wanted to call this out. I'm not going to show it. But there is a new setting within cloudLibrary settings that forces a full reindex of all cloudLibrary titles Sunday at 8 o'clock at night. We decided that would be a good time to do it, where it should be not very disruptive, but that just kind of ensures that all of the availability comes back into sync. The APIs with that can be sometimes tricky to get 100% right. So we decided we just kind of use the brute force and force a reindex. Sundays, you can disable that as well within your config settings. and SWAN sponsored that one. Next, we worked on making sure that list and series covers regenerate. So I'm sure we've all seen, we've got a list of blank covers that don't show anything, which is annoying, and we want to fix this. So it will now automatically regenerate when you add titles, edit it. So if we say edit and take out the ampersand and just say, and then if we go back to our lists, it will be renamed legends and lattes there. If we add titles or rearrange titles, it will also go through and update those. So we got two out of my list. Okay. But if we go back to our list of lists, we will see that our legends and lattes now is updated to have those 2 titles. And if we had more of those titles that I grabbed, we would have more covers. Series will also do the same thing. So if we go to a series record, so here I've just got Bad Kitty. If we go in and edit Bad Kitty, so we can properly capitalize this title. Maybe we'll put the author after. We could rearrange these. I'm not going to, but if we chose to, it would update those images as well. And now let's go back into Bad Kitty. So now we can see it's updated that title. And had we rearranged them, it would rearrange the covers there as well. So nice to make sure that we're not getting blank covers and that kind of thing. All right. That was, again, not sponsored by anybody, just something we did. And that was DIS 1803 for those. The next 2 are really cool as well. Everything's cool, apparently. So DIS 1989 and DIS 2070. These are sponsored by Nashville, and these are related to right to left functionality. So I'm just going to go to my homepage. We initially found an issue with when we switched to right to left, so Arabic, Kurdish, I forget what the third one is. When it displayed right to left, some of the browse categories weren't showing right. So we fixed that. At the same time, the way that the CSS was generated, so the backend files that we use to determine layout, the way those were generated was very, very, very manual. And basically people didn't keep up with it. So we were able to write a script that will ensure that those stay up every release. So as we add new functionality to Aspen, it will continue to display nicely in right to left languages. So hopefully we will get some more Arabic usage, especially with good right to left support and also Google Translate translations. It will be a good combo to allow more support to more people, which is great. I'm going to get out, though, of Arabic because I don't speak Arabic. All right. The next thing is something actually developed by ByWater Solutions, but it's really cool functionality. We wanted to point it out. So I'm just going to do my search for dinosaurs because I'm into dinosaurs today for some reason. This is DIS 2065. So when we have locked facets, they were kind of hard to see and use. So what they did was, let's do book and ebook. There's a little quirk here in that if I apply new facets, I need to unlock and then relock in order to have them applied. But then they show with the little lock icon, which is really a neat way of doing it. So if I then search for mice, now those apply and it's easy to see. If I deselect it here, it will unlock that facet so that the next thing I do will also have that. So neat functionality. Wanted to call that out. Next is DIS 1971, which was sponsored by SWAN. Before I do that, I'm going to unlock this facet before it goofs us up later. All right, so the next thing is sorting of editions to make unavailable records and on-order records sort below things that are checked out. Why is my... Internet is a little slow today. Okay. Let me try doing this search again here. Okay, I am not sure why this one is showing as that. That browser window apparently doesn't want to work. Okay, we will try this. So okay, so the idea here, when we were sorting by editions, this on order title was showing up above the available from another library. That didn't really make sense, but the logic that Aspen used was it said, hey, both of those titles are unavailable currently, and they had the same hold ratio. So the on order, or I think the on order actually had less of a hold ratio. But the idea is that on order titles are going to take a little bit longer to get there than something that is just checked out. So we flipped it to where anything that is on order sorts below things that are checked out, and anything that is like completely unavailable, so if it's been withdrawn or damaged, that kind of thing, sorts even lower, with the idea to still continue to get patrons the bib that is going to be most available to them. So for more information on that, DIS 1971, and again, sponsored by SWAN. The next one is also sponsored by SWAN, and we'll get our debug info there. It is DIS 1980, and the idea is that when we are placing a hold, so let's go back to People Magazine. When you're placing a hold, we want to only pick the volumes that have been selected by the edition that the patron is placing a hold on. So by default, place hold at the top, places a hold on the first thing. So if we do a place hold here, you have to log in, and we get to pick our volume. So we get our January 2026, 2025, all of our 2025s is what that first record is. As we scroll through them, but there's not any of the like 2020s or anything like that. There's some 2024s. If we go down to like the 2020 edition and place a hold on the 2020 edition, in this case, we're going to see all of the 2020 volumes that make up that bib record. So that way the patron has more control and they don't have to scroll through everything from 2025 or 2018 if the bib's broken up by year. All right. Next is DIS 1986. I'm just going to talk through this one. This was sponsored by Orange County. And what we found was if you were doing a batch cancel or batch freeze or batch thaw of all holds, that if you also had linked accounts, that the linked accounts were not having those updates applied. So I'd go through and say, hey, it worked, but in reality, it didn't cancel or freeze or thaw those. So that is now fixed. Subtle thing that the people that use it will definitely notice. All right, next is some Hoopla functionality. So Hoopla with their new APIs have also released a bunch of new metadata, and we are now taking that into account. So if we look at the staff view here, we will see we now have, so this is DIS 1638 and also DIS 2015. So 2015 is the audience is actually suppressed just like the price is if you don't have the right permissions. So we still have permissions so that you can see it if you need it for diagnosing why a Hoopla record is showing the way it is, but we don't need to show that information to the general public. So that doesn't show within the rest of the staff view that can be optionally shown to everybody. So the new metadata that we have is audience. We have AR book levels. We have series numbers. So there's the series name. Is the series number in this one? This one doesn't have the series number. Episode numbers for TV shows, accelerated reader data, and Lexile data. So good new functionality that we can use to supplement the catalog and make finding things easier. Again, sponsored by Midwest Tapes. Next, DIS 1990, which is sponsored by Nashville. And what this one is doing is allowing us to exclude specific records from the available now at. So from time to time, there's really good reasons to create certain branches. So when we were at AspenCon, it was really important to us to create the AspenCon branch so that we could do some work in one of the workshops. We still have that active. We're not using it. The actual use case for this was, hey, we had some kids collections and we were using the kids branches for browse categories and that kind of thing. So at an OPAC within the kids section, you could say we want to find things that are available in this area. In terms of available now, it's available at the branch. We don't necessarily need to say that it's at kids. So there's a new setting within library systems and also locations. So if we search for exclude, so there's locations to exclude from the available act facet. We'll paste in the AspenCon branch, so just the value we want to remove. We'll save that. These will still require an overnight index. So we have 14.957. Whenever you test and are making changes to things that require indexing, you can always go into one. So let's filter by that branch. And then Pride and Prejudice is one. So we're going to go into Pride and Prejudice. We're going to go to Staff View. And we're going to say force our reindex. And then it will reindex this the next time one of the indexers touches it. If we go back to our catalog search results, might take it a minute or two here. So once that reindexes, we will have one fewer, and Pride and Prejudice should go away. This can take a couple of minutes. So let's see if it's done. Not yet. We'll click back into it here in a second. The next, so there, now it's gone. So nice functionality, good to clean up those available now at branches. We can see we now have 14,954 instead of 14,957. So in addition to the one I forced, it's found another 2 that it's cleaned up. All right. Next, we have some updates to picture book formats. And this we talked about at the catalogers group, which if anybody doesn't go to the catalogers group, highly encourage going to the catalogers group. It is fun. And we have a new picture book format. So these will show up based off of, they're similar to board books. So based off the 650 or the 655, if it's got picture books, it's going to call it a picture book. Unless it's both a picture book and a board book, in which case it will call it a board book. So DIS 2020 again, sponsored by Orange County and the catalogers group. All right. Next, we have some updates to Yotos. So previously, Yotos required the word Yoto someplace in the 245. The downside of that is that means you could never group it with anything else because unless you manually grouped it because the titles would be different. So if we look at our staff view now, what we talked about with catalogers group is just allowing that to be in the 246 as well. I just put the word Yoto in here for this demo. Generally, it's a little bit more complete of a description, but now this would group with other copies and it would just have the format of Yoto. So it gives you a few more options. It will either do Yoto or either the 245 or the 246. So all right. Some more local ILL updates. This is WYLD. We've got our little local ILL system so that we can deal with distributing books across the state of Wyoming. One of the things they've noticed is this is in production now and getting real live uses. Sometimes people drive to near-ish by libraries and check things out there. And therefore, we don't want to count those necessarily against their limits for holds that can be placed and checkouts that can be placed with local ILL. So it is definitely a specific thing. But we have the ability, and before I forget, this is DIS 1967, sponsored by WYLD. So here we have a new status. So these holds are all coming from another library, so they're all local ILL, local being within that ILS. If we look at the checked out materials, so we have some that were checked out by this patron at their home library. We have some now that say, hey, these were picked up from another library. So in this case, it was picked up from whatever the home library was of these sourdough books. And then we have, again, a few more that were checked out at the patron's home library and some that are provided by another library. So these are local ILL titles that were delivered via mail as a local ILL process. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus 3 physical materials. So there's a total of 9 things that are currently local ILL. So let's just search for spring because it's here or coming depending on your area of the country. So now if we go to all libraries and we'll do a request. So we're going to get our error that, hey, we've reached the maximum number of requests for your library. In this case, the library is only allowing, if we go down to interlibrary loans, they are only allowing 3 ILL requests, which we have 9 things either checked out or on hold. So that's going to happen. And we're saying include the remote checkouts in the max ILL requests. If we bump this up to 9, or let's bump this up to 10, now we'll be able to place a request because we only have 9 things. So now we're allowed to place that request. If we go back and we say interlibrary loans, we're going to say we're allowed to do 7. So that's still less than we have currently out. We're going to place that request again. We should get our error message. So we get our error message. But if we say that the remote checkouts don't include, so those 3 books that the patron drove to their neighboring library and checked out, those don't count. Now when we try to place a request, we'll be able to. So highly specialized functionality, really cool, fun to do. A couple more things I want to talk about. So let me just go back to release notes for a sec. Down at the Palace Project stuff, we've been working with Lyrasis on optimizing how quickly Palace Project collections are indexed. And they're now indexing within a couple of minutes of things being checked out. So we basically get real-time availability for everything, which is amazing. And that's what we need and expect. And we can index them in parallel. So SWAN is using Palace Project now in, I think, about 50 libraries, if I remember right on last count, or 52 libraries are using it. And the indexes are still happening within a minute. So wanted to thank Lyrasis for some of the development they did on their end so that we could do the development on our end. And then also there's a couple new types for Palace Project. So they're just displaying some books and audiobooks that we're translating to ebooks and e-audiobooks. And then ByWater also did something to be able to choose whether or not a pin is required for a Palace Project. All right. Next, we have some improvements to saved searches. And these are sponsored by Orange County, and it is DIS 1979 and DIS 1469. So we kind of got saved searches got to glow up this time, and we have the ability now to separate out our saved searches from our recent searches. It used to just be you had a block of everything you had saved and then a block of all of your recent searches. So the saved searches now are paginated. So we're showing 20, and we can now sort them and search them. So we can say sort these by either the date saved. We can sort them by name. We can search. So I can say for all my dinosaur searches. So there's a bunch of my dinosaur saved searches with all of the information. Clicking on those will go to them. You can also see all of your recent searches. So you can see the searches we've done today. If we wanted to save any of these, we could. So I can save my mice books. And then we go over to our saved searches, and there's our mice books. So nice functionality there. We can jump to page 2. The other part of this that we did is being able to get emails when your search updates. So previously, we've had the ability to get push notifications when your saved searches update. And to get the push notification, you had to have LiDA, you had to set it up. Great for some patrons aren't going to go through that. So we now have the ability to do email notification. These are enabled within, so if I go to your preferences, and we go down to searches, we have the ability to say notify me by email when new titles are added or not. By default, these are turned on. When you do this, you will get a search or you will get an email that looks something like this. So it's going to be, this one came from SWAN, but it's new results in your saved searches. You can click through into the search, which goes to your search history so that you can see what's new, and it tells you which list or lists changed, or which list or lists, were updated, so that you can see those new results. So hopefully really good functionality for patrons and staff to be able to see what's new and coming, so that you can be the first person to place a hold on a new book as it comes in. So we're sure that patrons are going to find that very popular. So yes, right now the default is on for all users. We are happy to not make it on for all users if you wish. And if you want it to be a setting per library, like please comment on the Jira. I think the Jira for that one is 1469. So next, we have updating the searches. So there's been some confusion with title searching. Previously, title searching did a search of title, series, alternate titles, titles within table of contents, which is neat if you're trying to search for a song off of an album. But it's really confusing when you search for something like The Women, and we just want to sort everything by say date published, and you have a bunch of things that don't obviously show as like even the term you searched for in there. at all. So we've updated to remove series, alternate title, and the title all, so the or all of the table of contents and that kind of thing, so that when you do saves and searches, you're going to only get things that are obvious to the patron that they are part of that search that you did. You can still do a search. So the keyword search will still search table of contents, etc. And the series search obviously searches series. So hopefully that's obvious to patrons. Yeah, so that was DIS 1982, sponsored by Share. Next, and again, I'm just going to talk through these a little bit. It's a little tricky to show. So with series updates, we've done another round of updates to series. So the big two that I want to call out here are DIS 1974 and DIS 1976. So these are really working to clean up the series records that are being generated. So any untraced series, so series with a 490 with a first indicator of 0, are no longer going to be used to create series records. They will still be searchable. We just won't get a series record for it. But if you're searching for it and it's an untraced series, you'd still get it when you search the series index. And then also deleting empty series. So at the end of series indexing, it's going to go through and clean up any series that are completely empty. And so they don't have any members within them. And we want to make sure that they're created at least 60 minutes ago, just to make sure that we're not creating one while we're deleting it. So again, a little hard to show, but great functionality to make these better. So SWAN sponsored those as well. Next, we have updating, loading holidays and hours for Sierra libraries. So the idea here, we were hoping that we would be able to get these out of the database or get them out of the APIs, but unfortunately they don't have those available. So if we click batch update holidays, you're going to be prompted to paste the data from Sierra. So there is the table that you can view and edit. I'm just going to paste in a bunch of data here. So it is formatted essentially the ID of the holiday or hour, the location code, and the date that the library is closed. If it is a recurring one, it will be, it's like here, this is saying that location 24 is closed every single Sunday. You can then either bring in all holidays or bring in just information for the library, bring in all holidays. So you've got the option kind of what to do. So the goal is to make it easier to replicate that data from Sierra to Aspen, because it is important in both places. So save administrators a little time in typing. Next we have, and that was DIS 281, sponsored by MCFLS. Next, we have DIS 1968, which is creating a new translation map for bill and fine reasons. So if we look at our fines here, we have some that are cryptic. I personally don't know what BFR means. Assume lost, I assume that's lost. We now have the ability to translate those for Symphony libraries. So here we can say we have a new bill reason translation map that should be created automatically. And the idea here is we could say, so let's translate assume lost So we're going to add that. And this was say, we're going to so whatever you want to say, whatever's appropriate to your patrons can be said instead of assume lost. After we save that, as soon as we refresh, that will now be, oh, I am not signed in anymore. Oh. Apparently no longer know the, okay, there we go. So now we get that this is lost materials that are assumed, and that is the title of it. So good information to help patrons to figure that out. That is DIS 1968, sponsored by WYLD. Okay, next, again, I'm going to go back to release notes. I've got like 4 little ones. So some user theme updates, so just some different colors being applied in different locations to make the theming better. So 1887, 1829, 1959, and 1830. And then we have, so ByWater added the ability to jump to a specific page within search results. Let's just go here. We'll just do a quick search. We'll search for fish, and down here we have the ability to jump to a specific page. So if I want to go to page 85, or oh, I can't go to page 85. If I want to go to page 45, then I can just go to that. So ByWater added the go to page, and we updated the display of that just to make it look better everywhere. So previously the go to page was up above this, and the buttons didn't match and that kind of thing. So it's looking good now. That it should be basically every page where you get a list of pages to jump through. So good functionality there. DIS 1998 and DIS 2054. All right, and last but not least, I promised this was what we were going to look at last. It is DIS 1969, sponsored by SWAN, which is Web Resource Authentication from Explore More. So the New York Times currently requires you to be signed in order to access it. We signed in actually on another screen, so I'm going to refresh this and sign back out. So let's sign out here, and we'll go back to our search results. So the New York Times requires authentication. Previously, it was not. When you did click through, it was just going to the resource. Whereas, and this was only from Explore More. If you were on the record page, it was doing the right thing. If we click now, we have to log in, and then we can continue to the resource. So good functionality to make sure that we're going to the right place. So there we can now go to the New York Times. And then, yeah, there's the redemption. So that was DIS 1969, sponsored by SWAN. That's the end of the updates. Questions?
We did have a question from the chat from a while back from James regarding the batch hold operations for the linked accounts. And he asked, does the batch hold operation across linked accounts, is the user presented with a choice to perform the operation across linked accounts?
No, but you can always do a batch update selected. So I think the implication is if you say all, it means all. But if you do selected, it would just be selected. And then there was a question about, is the sign-in for just New York Times, or could it be any? And yes, it could be any. So Aspen is just saying enforce it to be, enforce the login within Aspen before it sends you over to the resource. It doesn't know what the resource is. So that's all part of setting up the web resource. So anything would work. Other questions?
Okay, we can wrap up the inside scoop portion of this recording, and then we'll get to questions from you all. So